Hello, everybody. This is StockerFinance, and I'm your host, David Scheuer. So today, we first have to figure out the definition of value. Now, there's lots of different definitions for value, but the one we're going to be using today is to estimate the monetary worth of something. Now, that something, in this case, is going to be the market capitalization, specifically the market capitalization of Tesla, which happens to be currently 182.06 billion US dollars. Now, it's probably fluctuated a little bit since the start of this video. The price has fluctuated around $1,000, but the current price of the stock is $982.13. Now, how you calculate market capitalization is you take the number of shares and you multiply it by the price of those shares. So 982 times however many Tesla shares there are will get you the market capitalization. Now, how do we calculate the future value or the future market capitalization? It's really just like predicting the future. We don't know. It could go upside down. It could go anywhere. We don't know where it's going to end up. But an interesting thing here is we can look at a few different things to help us predict that. We can look at the market size and whether that market is growing or not, the markets that Tesla is in this case. We can look at the balance sheet. Is it a consistently growing company, or is the company's balance sheet looking a little rough? And that can help us decide the future value or decide the shape that the company is going to be in. So then we can also look at the potential value of innovations of technology the company is working on or the company owns, etc. And it's really tricky to value an innovation in technology, especially when it's not fully released or not fully there yet. A good example of this, though, is autonomous driving. So autonomous driving, the value of it is huge because, number one, especially for semi-trucks, an autonomously driving semi-truck, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, the semi-truck delivery industry, and to eliminate a driver from that, or at least not have to have much human interaction or lower cost because there's less crashes, that's going to be a huge disruptor, and the value of that technology is going to be really high. And you can also compare and do comparative analysis, is what I like to call it. Compare this company to other companies who have similar market caps or who are in similar market segments and kind of see where they stand. It's great to look at companies that are already successful, etc., and see where they're at. It's just kind of one way to do it. There's a bunch of different ways here, but we're really going to be focusing on market size and growth and the potential value of innovations and technology today. So we're going to be doing a lot of arbitrary number calculating. We're going to be doing a lot of looking into the future. Since Tesla has a lot of technologies and has so many different parts to it, it's really hard to just simply look at one thing. Oh, and we're also going to be looking at the CEO performance package as a way to calculate it out and just kind of look at Tesla's growth here, which is going to be interesting. So, first off, let's look at the markets. The first segment and the largest segment of Tesla, the most prominent, is the auto segment. So Elon said Tesla's goal in the future is to replace 1% of the global fleet per year. Now, there's currently about 1.4 billion cars in the world. So you do 1% times 1.4 billion. That means Tesla will be putting out 14 million cars per year, not 14,000, 14 million cars per year. Now, the interesting thing here is the market, the auto market, the global auto market, is growing substantially. Every 20 years, it doubles in size, just about. So it started with 342 million cars in 1976, then 670 million in 1996, 1.34 billion in 2016, and it's projected, if it continues on that track, by 2036 to reach 2.68 billion vehicles on the road, or just registered in the world. And with a 1% target, with that 2.68 billion not dollars, but the number of cars times 1% will equal 26.8 million cars per year. And what does that translate to? Well, 14 million Teslas sold per year. Well, that's, it's pretty tricky to calculate since you have to get an average price per Tesla to figure out how many, the revenue they're doing for that, etc. It's really hard to figure that out, especially with margins changing in the future, a bunch of different stuff. As you can tell, the prices of each of their cars, it really goes all over the place. You have the Cybertruck for $3,900. You have the Tesla Roadster, which will come out soon or start production in the near future for $200,000. Then you have the semi-truck, $150,000. We have the Model 3 for $33,000. So the prices really range, which can be tricky to figure out how much money they're going to be making per car on that 14 million Teslas sold per year. But one way we can do this is by looking at the current stats. So we can look at the Q1, the most recent results, the Q1 2020 automotive revenue. Now, they did $5.132 billion in revenue from the automotive segment. And if we look at the number of deliveries, they delivered around 88,496 vehicles that quarter. So what we can do now is, if we're going to calculate the average price of these 14 million Teslas sold, well, we can use these numbers to give us an estimated price per vehicle that they're selling. And we can use the current numbers to try to calculate the future numbers. So $5.132 billion as of Q1 2020 divided by 88,496 deliveries is $57,991 average per vehicle. Now, as you might guess, this is pretty crazy. $57,000, 991 times 14 million cars per year is $811 billion per year. Just over that, more like $812 billion. And you do the same margin that it had of Q1 2020, which is 25.5 gross margin, you're going to have a $200 billion a year profit. So, yeah, that's insane. But as you might guess, this is also more than Microsoft. It's just an insane amount. And a lot of you are probably typing right now in the comment section saying, what is wrong with you? This is not true. You're not doing your math right. Why would you use those numbers? Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. Those numbers are not correct whatsoever. I'm using Q1 2020 numbers and not yearly numbers. I'm using the profit margin will change and most likely improve as they start mass producing even more and ramping up vehicles. Tesla vehicles and pricing almost always is changing. They're constantly changing the price of full self-driving, the price per car, etc., different models, all that stuff. And you can only replace so many vehicles until the market is saturated. So that 1%, well, you can only replace 1% of it so much. It's eventually you're going to have all Teslas or you're going to have the market just be fully saturated, etc. So you can only sell so much. You can only do that 1% so much. It's not something that can last forever, especially with Teslas, which, you know, most likely with the $1 million, with the 1 million mile batteries, etc., you're not going to be needing to replace them as much as some of the other combustion engine vehicles, which tend to have a lot more problems and less reliability. Tesla's release new products and vehicles all the time, so we have no clue what new products and vehicles they could have, in their shop that they're working on right now. And it's extremely hard to calculate the number of vehicles in the world, since the number I use only accounts for registered vehicles. However, the one thing that those calculations that gives us is it gives us a decent understanding that it actually won't be very hard for Tesla to make triple digit, which is billions in US dollars, so hundreds of billions in revenue per year. Even if they have, their margin is significantly higher as they produce more, that means they're going to make more profit. If they're producing the Tesla Semi and the Model 3, at the same time, or the Model Y, well, that average will be about 50,000 or a little more. So, I mean, that number, although it's kind of an arbitrary number and it's Q1 2020, doesn't really make any sense to use it, it does give us an understanding that it won't be very hard to make triple digits in revenue for Tesla. But we're not going to know exactly what that is. It's going to be really hard to figure that out. Now, let's look at some other market segments here, just to give you some further examples. Now, the rideshare market. This is autonomous driving. Elon's talked about ride sharing quite a bit. Now, the rideshare market is currently worth $61.3 billion as of 2018 and is projected to grow to $218 billion by 2025. Now, the interesting thing here is the current rideshare companies like Uber and Lyft, they don't really make any money. They're losing a substantial amount of money. They're burning through tons of cash, and they're hurting really badly from the whole pandemic right now. So for Tesla to come in once it releases full autonomous driving in the near future, which I believe it will be in the near future, I think it could take pretty much this entire segment away from them and really obliterate the competition. Since, one, the owners will own the cars. They're going to be able to have really substantial low pricing for rides and different ride shares because of the autonomous driving. If you don't have to have a driver in it, you don't need to pay a driver. So for Tesla to compete in that market, I think that technology is going to be worth significant, and the market's also growing significantly. Then you have vehicle to grid, the peaker plant market, which has an $800 billion potential, or about 10 to 12 billion in the US, probably a little more than that. If you want to learn about vehicle to grid, I suggest checking out some other videos on it. I'll link some below. It's a little complicated, but it's super awesome, and it's just a crazy huge market. So our electric grid needs innovation and needs more storage. This is perfect timing for Tesla to enter the electric utilities market, which it's a huge market. Then we have the Tesla semi-autonomous delivery market. This was something I thought of that I think's been overlooked. Once Tesla releases full autonomous driving, or once it has it, and along with now it's starting to produce the Tesla Semi, which I think is weirdly a perfect timing, as it's releasing the Tesla Semi, and as their autonomous driving is just about getting, it's starting to get there. You can definitely tell it's getting pretty significantly, it's pretty smart now, to say the least. That's market is worth about $800 billion. And then you have apps and advertising. This was a comment that someone left on one of my other videos about Tesla, which the little dashboard, or the little, the iPad looking thing, the console, you could easily have people creating apps for it, advertising, and that could be another small revenue driver for Tesla. Now, Teslas may also become cheaper to buy a Tesla as as the owners will profit off vehicle to grid, ride sharing, etc., which will make for a cheaper initial car price. People may also choose to simply ride share instead of own a car, since autonomous vehicles will drastically lower the cost for ride share. I just think that's something interesting to think about. Since Elon was talking about replacing 1% a year of the global car market. Well, what if people choose they no longer need a car because they can just ride share with other people's Teslas so much? Just an interesting little note to think about there. Now let's talk about Tesla Auto alone. So just looking at it completely alone, it's pretty absurd. $218 billion market value for the rideshare market. That's how large it is. $800 billion potential for the vehicle to grid market. Around $800 billion for the autonomous semi-truck delivery market. $5 to $10 billion for apps and advertising. And that, I think that's a little high personally. But then we have $800 billion for 1% of the auto market each year. And that equals a $2.6 trillion market potential. All the different markets that Tesla's in right now, in terms of auto just alone, is $2.6 trillion. Now, these are not conservative numbers. I think these numbers are extremely high. Most of you probably agree with me. Most of you are probably commenting down below how stupid I am for putting these numbers and these arbitrary numbers. But yeah, they are arbitrary. And here are some more conservative numbers that are, again, they're arbitrary numbers, but this is how we can look at some of the potential value that Tesla has. With these massive markets and with how little competition they have, with how much they're innovating and changing the world, the value of these markets are huge that they're entering into. And I don't think it's going to be very hard for Tesla to completely disrupt all these markets and eventually take over most of it, as we're starting to see with the auto market right now. As all the other auto companies are dying out, Tesla is just taking over. They're dominating. They're succeeding. All the other auto companies are struggling with debt. They're struggling because their dealerships aren't selling any cars now. They're having to change up their whole model. Their technology is way behind Tesla. And so if Tesla can show that it can take over the auto market, I wouldn't be surprised if it can take over these other markets as well with the technology that it has. So for the conservative numbers here, and I just did 1% of the rideshare market, 1% of the vehicle to grid market, very, very low, 1% of the autonomous semi-truck delivery market, 1% of apps and advertising, and I just divided the entire revenue from cars in half. So instead of 1% replacement, they're doing 0.05% replacement of the global fleet each year. And that's still an over $400 billion potential, which is pretty incredible. Now let's talk about Tesla Energy, because this is an entire thing that a lot of people forget about. Tesla is honestly a major energy company, and it's starting to compete with energy utility companies, or at least it believe it's going to be in the near future. So the global solar energy market was valued at $52.5 billion in 2018 and is projected to reach $223.3 billion by 2026. I think it could be much more than that. I also didn't include in this valuation battery storage for countries, rural areas. We saw that in Australia. And charging stations, which they could lease out. I've always thought that there's a huge value for Tesla to lease out charging stations to other vehicle providers or other vehicle manufacturers who don't have the same grid. Well, they could say, hey, whatever, you can use our grid if you give us a percent of each sale per car, for every car that uses it, or for your users or the drivers that use the grid. Well, they have to pay a little fee to use that, or they have to pay significantly more than others, etc. I don't know, just kind of a random idea there. I know I didn't articulate it very well. Then repairs and service. Now, repairs and service is actually a significantly large chunk, or not significantly large, but pretty large chunk of the revenue segments for Tesla. They did about $560 million in service and other revenue in Q1 of 2020. So as they produce more cars, they're going to grow more and more repairs and service, and they're going to make a lot of money from that as well. And then you have future vehicles and tech, which we have no clue the potential of what they're holding behind closed doors. They could have a lot. And one other thing here is the ATV and UTV that you saw with the Cybertruck. I didn't include that in all the other vehicles, but the ATV market and UTV is an $8 billion market. It's projected to grow to $25 billion by 2025. It's actually a very fast-growing market. And to provide a really cool looking, I thought the ATV looked super cool in my opinion, electric fast ATV, I think it could do very well in selling that alone. But I know Tesla's not focused on it because that's not where the money's at really, since it's going to be a much lower cost item. But it's just another market, just another multi-billion dollar market that Tesla's entering into. So now you might thinking, this is pretty crazy. Tesla's the potential to do more revenue than Microsoft and Apple combined, according to just the auto sales. But Tesla's in so many massive markets that I really don't think it's that weird. And one thing to look at here again is the CEO performance package. Now, this is basically, there's different tranches here, and I'm going to explain it a little bit. But basically, when the market cap hits a certain number, Elon gets a huge stock reward. He gets stock given to him at a certain price, whatever it may be. So, anyways, if we look at here, he's already hit the first tranche, which is 59 billion, then the second one, which is 100 billion. And then the third one he's hit, which is 150 billion, and now there's a 200 billion one, and Tesla's market cap is about 189 billion, so it's approaching that very quickly. But what you might see by the last one, it's 650 billion. If we look at this, he has you have the total shareholder value created at final market cap milestone. So the first tranche milestone is 100 billion, and the last one is 650 billion. Now, all those markets combined were worth, it was multi-trillion, or it was around $2 trillion, all those different markets combined. So for Tesla to hit $650 billion market cap, especially with a pretty high PE ratio, in my opinion, is not going to be very difficult. And I could easily see Tesla hitting that. Since it's already hit these different numbers, Elon's gotten his award packages. I actually think he's a little ahead of schedule. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. The interesting thing here is how long it takes to do that. So his terms for this entire performance award package is 10 years. So if he's going to do that in 10 years, if we go back here, the number of tranches is 10. Well, then there's 12 by 2018, so they added more. But anyways, the number of tranches there in 10 years, so that means they're hitting basically one goal every year or so. To me, Tesla growing at that rate, it's going to easily, within 10 years, be a $1 trillion company, or more than that. With the value of the markets it's in, with the technology they're coming out with the little competition they're facing, and if they say what's true, if Elon says it's true, or if it becomes true for Elon to replace, or Tesla to replace, sorry, I'm jumbling my words now, for Tesla to replace 1% of the global car market per year, as the car market's continuing to grow pretty substantially as well, the revenue for Tesla is going to be substantial, and I will not be surprised if Tesla's worth at least $1 trillion within 10 years or less. It could easily be one of the most valuable companies in the world. I would love for people to try and prove me wrong here. I want to hear different reasons. I want to hear different reasoning for why you don't think Tesla will do that, or why you think it could be worth more or maybe a little less. So yeah, anyway, it's hard to put an exact number on the market cap, but the future value for Tesla is definitely at least $1 trillion in the near future, at least possibly $2 trillion, just with the amount of markets and the disruption they're going to be causing in the near future here. And at the pace they're growing right now, especially with the award packages given to Elon, which incentivizes him to even further push the company farther and farther. Even if there's no competition, they still have a reason to innovate and grow further with those different tranches put in place. So it's pretty interesting. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you kind of got a brief understanding of the potential value of Tesla and just how ridiculous it is, especially with all the markets they're disrupting. Please subscribe. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the summer. And check out these videos as well. I'm going to be releasing a new video this Friday. I release videos Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I try to at least. So make sure to subscribe and comment below or tweet at me at StockerFinance. Anyways, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.